The cold sting of the early morning breeze was the only sensation that seemed real as I stood outside, trash bag in hand, lost in my routine thoughts. Today, though, the monotony of trash day was shattered by a single piece of paper that fluttered out from the overstuffed bag. It was a check, a payment to my wife, Claire, from someone named A. Sullivan. The amount was substantial, but the name wasn't one I recognized. Curiosity morphed into suspicion in an instant. Why would she receive money from a stranger? With a growing knot in my stomach, I tore through the other bags, my hand stained and shaking. More checks, all from the same mysterious A. Sullivan, each for increasing amounts. My heart raced as the implications began to cloud my mind. Back inside, I confronted Claire over breakfast. Her face, usually an open book of warmth and smiles, closed off as she saw the evidence spread out on the kitchen table. "Can you explain this?" I asked, my voice steady despite the tempest inside me. "It's nothing, just freelance work. You know, I've been looking to start my own thing," she stammered, avoiding my gaze. "Freelance? And you never thought to mention it?" I countered, pushing the checks towards her. "And who is A. Sullivan?" Her silence was deafening. The air between us filled with a chill that no amount of central heating could dispel. Fueled by a mix of betrayal and desperation, I decided to dig deeper. The following days were a blur of detective work. I followed her one afternoon after she left for what she claimed was a networking meeting. My pulse hammered in my ears with each step I took, hiding in plain sight, watching her enter a luxury downtown office building. I waited, anxiety gnawing at me, until she emerged hours later, her laughter echoing down the street as she walked alongside a tall, charismatic man, A. Sullivan, no doubt. The intimacy of their gestures, the casual touches, it was all the confirmation I needed. The confrontation that night was explosive. Accusations flew, harsh truths spilled, and the life we had built together crumbled in the span of a heated argument. "I trusted you," I hissed, my voice a mixture of rage and sorrow. "You don't understand, it's not what it looks like," Claire pleaded, tears streaming down her face. But the evidence was undeniable. Betrayal was written in the lines of the checks, in the secret smiles she thought I hadn't seen. With a heart heavier than the bags of trash I had sifted through, I made the decision. I told her to leave, to take her secrets and lies, and leave the home we had shared. The locks were changed the next day. Divorce papers were filed with a numb efficiency. Friends and family chose sides, whispered about the scandal, but none of it mattered. The woman I loved had deceived me, and nothing could undo the pain of that realization. As the dust settled, my thoughts turned dark with plans for retribution. The seeds of revenge took root, nourished by the ruins of a love betrayed. I would not let this deceit go unanswered. My next steps were clear, and I would start by exposing A. Sullivan for the homewrecker he was. The road to revenge was set, and I was ready to walk it. This was only the beginning. The days that followed were charged with a cold, methodical purpose. I felt like a machine, each morning automating my way through routine, each night plotting the downfall of A. Sullivan. The betrayal had ignited a fire within me, and with every waking moment, I schemed how to expose and ruin the man who had dared disrupt my life. A plan began to take shape, simple yet effective. I would confront Sullivan, not with fists or accusations, but with cold, hard evidence in public. I wanted to see him squirm, to watch as the facade he presented to the world crumbled. First, I needed proof beyond the checks and clandestine meetings, something irrefutable. I hired a private investigator, a discreet professional recommended by a trusted friend. "I need everything you can find on A. Sullivan and his dealings with my wife," I instructed him over the phone. "Photos, messages, anything." "Consider it done," the PI assured me with the confidence of someone who had navigated the murky waters of infidelity before. As the investigator dug into Sullivan's life, I focused on the digital front. My evenings were consumed with learning hacking basics, trawling forums, and leveraging software to break into Sullivan's email. It was a relentless pursuit fueled by betrayal's bitter aftertaste. One night, my efforts bore fruit. I accessed an email thread between Claire and Sullivan, laden with romantic exchanges and plans for future escapades. Each message was a dagger, but also a necessary ammunition for my campaign against them. I printed every email, every photograph the PI sent me of them together, and prepared a dossier. The opportunity for confrontation came one evening at a local business gala, an event Sullivan frequented as a keynote speaker. Dressed sharply, my anger neatly tucked away behind a calm facade, I entered the grand hall, the dossier securely tucked in my briefcase. Sullivan was there, as expected, mingling with the city's elite. I approached, my heart pounding in my chest, but my voice steady. "Mr. Sullivan, a word, please?" I said, drawing him away from the crowd. "Of course," he replied, his smile polished, but his eyes wary. We stepped into a quiet corner, and I laid the dossier before him. "You know why I'm here," I stated flatly. His face paled as he flipped through the documents. "Look, this isn't what you think," he began, his usual confidence faltering. "Don't insult me further," I cut in sharply. "I want you to end it. Today. Or this," I tapped the dossier, "goes public. Your choice." The conversation was tense, with Sullivan trying to negotiate, to explain. But I was resolute, the pain of betrayal sharpening my resolve. "I'll end it," he finally conceded, a note of defeat in his voice. "Just keep this quiet." As I walked away, a small, hollow victory settled in my chest. But this was just the beginning. The real retribution was yet to come. Claire was next, and I had plans for her as well. Plans that would ensure she regretted her infidelity as deeply as I had suffered from it. The storm was gathering, and I was at its center, ready to unleash it. With Sullivan's capitulation secured, my focus turned inexorably towards Claire. The silence of our once shared home amplified the echo of each ticking second, marking time as I plotted her downfall. The need for vengeance gnawed at me, a constant companion in the quiet moments of the night. I knew that mere exposure wasn't enough. Claire needed to feel the depth of betrayal, to understand the pain she had inflicted. My plan was psychological, subtle yet devastating. I started by infiltrating the social circles that mattered most to her, planting seeds of doubt and stories of her infidelity subtly and systematically. I began attending events she frequented, always keeping to the shadows, observing, listening. At each gathering, I whispered into the eager ears of gossips, recounting veiled tales of a woman caught in a scandalous affair, careful never to use her name but knowing the rumors would lead back to her. "Can you believe it?" I'd murmur, a glass of wine in hand, my voice tinged with feigned concern. A married woman, gallivanting with some rich entrepreneur, right under her husband's nose. The rumors took on a life of their own, swirling through the crowd, growing in detail and scandal with each retelling. Claire's social standing began to erode, her friends casting suspicious glances her way, whispering behind closed doors. I confronted her directly at a charity gala, a public stage for our private drama. She was draped in elegance, her demeanor calm, unaware of the brewing storm. I approached, my steps measured, my heart a tempest of rage and pain. "Claire," I called out, my voice cutting through the hum of conversation, drawing eyes from across the room. She turned, her expression shifting from surprise to wariness. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice low, tense. "I thought you might want to know that your secrets are no longer just ours," I said, stepping closer, my words deliberate. "Everyone knows, Claire. Everyone." Her face paled, eyes darting around the room as she noticed the stares, the whispers. "You didn't," she hissed, a mix of anger and fear. "Oh, but I did," I replied coldly. "And I'm just getting started." The confrontation escalated as she tried to salvage her crumbling facade, denying everything, but the damage was done. Her once loyal friends stepped back, their support withdrawn. As the gala ended, Claire was isolated, a social pariah. Her exit from the event was hurried, alone, a stark contrast to the adoring crowd that once would have surrounded her. Driving home, the hollow satisfaction of my revenge was tinged with sorrow. The ruins of our marriage lay bare, a testament to the destructive power of betrayal. Yet, the final act of my retribution remained. I spent the next days preparing, tying loose ends, ensuring that when I struck the last blow, it would be decisive and final. Claire's professional life was my last target, her career the last part of her old life still intact. My plans were meticulous, each step carefully orchestrated to leave no trace back to me. As I set the final pieces into motion, I knew that the climax of my revenge was near. The echoes of deceit would resonate, a dark symphony of retribution and sorrow, and I was the conductor, ready to bring the performance to its finale. The final act of my revenge was set against the backdrop of a bleak, stormy evening. The rain mirrored the turmoil within me as I prepared to sever the last ties with Claire. My plan to dismantle her professional life had unfolded with chilling precision over the past few weeks. Today, with one final move, I would ensure her fall from grace was complete. I sat in my car across the street from her office, watching as the lights flickered in the gathering dusk. My hands were steady on the steering wheel, my resolve as hard as the driving rain. Inside my coat, the envelope that would end everything pressed against my heart, a symbolic gesture for a heart long betrayed. As Claire exited the building, her steps hurried against the storm. I stepped out of my car and called out to her. "Claire!" My voice cut through the roar of the wind. She turned, her face registering shock, then fear as she saw me approaching. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice nearly drowned by the rain. "I'm here to give you something," I said, holding up the envelope. "Consider it a parting gift." She eyed the envelope warily but took it, her hands trembling as she tore it open. Inside, photographs spilled out, images of her and Sullivan, damning emails, and forged documents that implicated her in financial misdealings I had carefully set up to look like her doing. "How could you?" she gasped, her eyes wide with horror. "You destroyed us, Claire." "I'm just returning the favor," I replied coldly. Before she could respond, I stepped closer, my voice lowering to a harsh whisper. "And there's more. Check your email tomorrow. Everyone in your professional circle will know the truth. Your career is over." Her face crumpled, the fight draining out of her as she realized the extent of my retribution. "Why are you doing this?" she pleaded, her voice breaking. "You betrayed me," I said simply, the weight of my words hanging between us. "You chose this path." I turned to leave, but not before delivering the final blow. "Goodbye, Claire. I hope he was worth it." As I walked away, her sobs were lost in the sound of the storm, a bitter symphony to accompany my departure. My steps were heavy, each one echoing the death knell of the life we had shared. The taste of revenge was ashen in my mouth, but necessary. The next morning, the aftermath was swift and devastating. Claire's professional reputation was shattered, the rumors and accusations made her untouchable in her industry. Sullivan, too, faced his downfall as the financial irregularities came to light, tracing back to what appeared to be their joint ventures. In the end, Claire reached out to me once, her voice a shadow of its former self. "I never cheated on you with Sullivan," she whispered over the phone, a confession as surprising as it was unprovable. I paused, the revelation sparking a brief flicker of doubt. But the cascade of lies and deceit she had woven over the years had hardened my heart. Whether true or not, the betrayal I had felt was real, and the consequences she faced were of her own making. "We're done here," I said, hanging up before she could say more. The line went dead, a fitting end to our tragic tale. As I moved on, the loneliness of my victory settled around me. I had avenged my heart, but at what cost? The echoes of our love, now tainted with betrayal and revenge, would linger in the silent spaces of my life, a haunting reminder of the price of trust broken and retribution sought.